In this video, we're upgrading to macOS Tahoe, Apple's latest version of macOS. I'll walk you through what's new, how it performs, and whether it's worth installing right now. We'll compare the RAM and the idle CPU usage before and after the update to see if Tahoe really is more efficient. So, let's jump right in. The first thing I did was compare the RAM usage, and honestly, there was pretty much no difference. The change was so small, around 0.3%, that it's basically negligible. In other words, macOS Tahoe doesn't use any more RAM than the previous version. The next thing I did was compare the idle CPU usage right at startup. On macOS Sequoia, it was sitting at around 99% idle, but after upgrading to macOS Tahoe, it initially started at about 66%, then after just a few seconds, it quickly went back to 99%, basically matching what it was before the update. I also checked the disk activity right after startup. On macOS Sequoia, the system read about 3.5 GB from the drive, while on macOS Tahoe it went up slightly to around 4 GB. That's likely just background processes running after the update, like indexing or cache rebuilding. The next thing I did was checking the network activity right after startup. On macOS Sequoia, it was around 2 MB received, but on macOS Tahoe it jumped to about 12 MB. That's likely just background processes like iCloud or System Sync running right after the update, so nothing concerning long term. Now that we've got all of that out of the way, let's move on to what most people are excited about: the new features. And one of the biggest visual changes in macOS Tahoe is the new liquid glass interface, giving everything a more translucent and fluid look, especially in the menu bar, control center, and the dock. Let's start with the menu bar. Here on macOS Sequoia, you can see it's a bit more solid, the background isn't fully transparent, and the edges are flatter. But now on macOS Tahoe, the new liquid glass design really stands out. The menu bar is more translucent, almost like a frosted glass, and everything feels a lot smoother and more refined. Even when you click a menu item, the highlight around it is now semi-transparent and softly rounded, giving the whole interface that fluid glass-like look Apple was going for. And depending on how bright your wallpaper is, that liquid glass effect becomes even more noticeable, with lighter wallpapers making it look more reflective and vivid. Next, let's take a look at the control center. In macOS Sequoia, it had a more basic and boxy layout, flat panels, sharper edges, and solid background colors. In macOS Tahoe, the control center has been completely redesigned with the new liquid glass interface. The panels, icons, and sliders all have translucent glass-like finish. There's also a brand new customization view. When you click on Add Controls, it opens in Gallery, where you can drag in new controls. When you drag them in, you could also resize them between small, medium, or large, and even reorder them directly in the control center, as you see in the video. And for the first time, you can add third-party controls, including some from your iPhone apps. Now let's take a look at the dock. In macOS Sequoia, the dock had a more classic frosted look, slightly blurred, with a soft tint. Next, let's take a look at the dock in macOS Tahoe. Apple added a brand new Appearance section in System Settings. When you go into Appearance and open Icon and go to Widget and Folder Style, you could actually choose how you want your dock to look. The first one, Default, looks pretty familiar to Sequoia, with that familiar soft background. The second is the Dark option, which gives the dock a kind of deeper shade that's easier on the eyes, and it fits dark wallpapers better than the default one. You could also choose the option Clear, which adds that liquid glass transparency. It matches perfectly with the new menu bar and control center. And there's also Tinted, which adapts to the dock's color, and to your folders or wallpapers. You can even fine-tune the tint by making it lighter or darker, or picking any accent color you want. You could basically customize it into any color you want. And also note that the first 3 options will match the color of your dock and widgets together. Now let's take a look at the other features in the new appearance settings. You can customize your folder colors, and Apple gives you a whole range of colors to pick from. Here you can see the default colors, and you have a lot of options here. But let's say that you're not happy with the default colors. Well, then you could use the tinted dock option. It lets you choose any color you want and even adjust how light or dark the color looks. You could do this using the color slider. And if you're not happy with the default colors or the tinted dock option, you can use the color picker to hover around your wallpaper or over your wallpaper and pick a tone directly from it so your folders perfectly match your background. And you also have the option to right-click your folder and choose Customize Folder. You can add visual badges or icons to make certain your folders stand out. There's also a new animation when you drag a file into a folder. It smoothly opens up and pulls in the file. There's also a new color option under Appearance. This controls accent colors across macOS, things like buttons, highlights, and toggles. There's also a new option called Tint Window Background with Wallpaper Color, and when it's on, your app windows pick up a tone from your wallpaper. And the sidebar icon size just changes the size of your icons. Now let's take a look at the redesigned icons. Before updating to macOS Tahoe, Finder in Sequoia had a more traditional look. The corners were sharper and the buttons were built right into the window. But in macOS Tahoe, everything feels softer and more modern. The corners are more rounded and the buttons now hover slightly above the window instead of being integrated in the window. And the whole interface just looks a lot cleaner and simpler and kind of more refined. And you'll really notice that the buttons hover over the window when choosing the white option or the white color. Another big change you'll notice is in the sidebar. In apps like Photos, the sidebar now slightly hovers above the window instead of blocking it completely. And when you zoom in on a picture, you can still see your picture faintly through the sidebar. It's not fully transparent, but it has a faint refraction effect that keeps everything visible and gives you a better sense of context. And there's also a small but really useful change. You can now resize the window without the sidebar disappearing. In Sequoia, once you made the window too small, the sidebar would vanish. But in Tahoe, it always stays visible no matter how much you shrink the window. But you can't shrink it as much as in Sequoia. A few smaller visual updates are worth mentioning too. The screensaver settings have now been moved into the wallpaper section, so everything related to your desktop appearance is in one place. You can also customize the clock appearance, changing the font style and the weight. And the volume and brightness indicators have now been moved from the middle of the screen to the top right corner, where they are now transparent and they don't block your content anymore. Plus, when you change the volume level or the brightness level using the function keys, you can actually drag the indicator with your cursor to fine-tune the level, which is, in my opinion, a nice little touch. The old control center section in system settings have now been replaced by a new menu bar section. Here you can quickly choose what appears up top in the menu bar, like toggling date and time on or off, and even hide third-party icons such as iStat menus, which you couldn't do before. There's also an Add Controls button that takes you back to the same customization menu from earlier, letting you manage what shows in the control center. There's also a new capability called iPhone mirroring. It now lets you have live activities from your iPhone appear directly in the Mac's menu bar, and when you click on one, it instantly opens iPhone mirroring and takes you straight to that live activity on your phone. A really seamless connection between macOS Tahoe and the iOS. macOS Tahoe finally brings the phone app to the Mac. Until now, you could only make or receive calls through FaceTime or Messages app, but never from a dedicated app. The new phone app offers full feature parity with the iPhone, including call screening, hold assist, and live translation. You can also use the built-in dial pad to enter numbers manually. And all your calls, voicemails, and recent activity will automatically sync from your iPhone. There's even a refreshed interface for incoming calls, now appearing as a larger panel that displays the caller's contact poster. The Journal app is also coming to the Mac after 2 years on iPhone. It includes all the same features for journaling, reflections, and media entries, and everything syncs seamlessly across your Apple devices, including your iPhone and iPad. Another new addition is the Games app, launching on Mac alongside iPhone. Previously, you could only access games through the App Store's arcade section, but now there's a dedicated space to browse, play, and manage all your games. It includes a continue playing section to jump right back into your last session, and a social feature where you can see what your friends are playing and compare progress on leaderboards. In the Library tab, you can view achievements and all the games you've played in one place. macOS Tahoe also added a brand new magnifier app. I personally won't use it, but it's great for reading small text on paper or seeing something far away. Simply use your Mac's camera to zoom in and magnify the content right on screen. Now let's take a look at Safari. The new tab bar will automatically adapt its color to match each website's background. For example, here you can see it turns into the same color as the background, but if you go into settings and turn off this feature, it will go back to its default color. In previous versions, this color matching effect only appeared in compact view, but now it's built into the default layout. If you go into settings, then click on tabs, you'll notice that the option to switch between standard and compact tab view has now been removed. Instead, the two modes have been combined into a single layout. The website address bar is also permanently fixed at the top, just like before in standard view. So they have basically combined the two modes. Shortcuts in macOS Tahoe now support automations. When you open the Automations tab and click the plus button, you can create triggers based on different conditions, like when an alarm stops, at a specific time of day, or even when you receive a certain email or message. It's a powerful new way to automate everyday tasks on your Mac. So in macOS Tahoe, Launchpad is now completely gone and it's been replaced by something called Apps. When you click on Apps, it looks a bit like Spotlight, but with a full list of all your applications right underneath. This is now the main way to browse or search for apps in Tahoe. And if you press the regular spotlight key on your keyboard, you'll still get the classic spotlight search, just like before, but without the app list. There are also new buttons on the right side of the bar. One to search applications, one for files, and one for actions, and the fourth one is called Clipboard. Here in the new apps view, when you start typing, you'll notice a few default filters appear below the search bar. For example, if I only want to search Google Docs related features in Safari, I can click that filter and instantly narrow the results. The Actions button is brand new in macOS Tahoe and it's really powerful. It basically lets you do things directly from the search window, like creating a note or sending an email without opening any app first. For example, I can type for a new note, hit enter, and I'm instantly writing a new note in iCloud Notes. You can set up similar shortcuts for other actions too, like sending a message or composing an email. And over on the far right, there's a fourth option called Clipboard. This shows a history of everything you've copied in the last 8 hours. Text, links, and pretty much anything more. Each entry shows the exact time you copied it, and you can easily reuse the items by clicking on them. It's super handy for when you need to grab something you copied earlier in the day. Now let's take a look at messages, because there are a couple of new features here. You can finally change the conversation backgrounds and even apply filters to adjust how they look. There's also support for polls, group chat indicators, and even Apple Pay directly inside group conversations. So you can now vote, split bills, or send money without ever leaving the chat. The clock app has also gotten a small but really useful tweak. You can now adjust the snooze duration, so instead of being stuck at 9 minutes, you can now set it to anywhere between 1 and 15 minutes, which is a nice little quality of life upgrade. If you've ever used your Mac in a car or on a plane and felt a bit of motion sick, Apple's addressing that in Tahoe with vehicle motion cues. You'll find it under Settings, then Accessibility, then Motion. And when you turn it on, small dots will appear around the edges of the screen that move with your device, helping your eyes match what your body feels. You can even customize the dot, change their color, size, or add more of them depending on your comfort level. Under the new Read and Speak section, there's an Accessibility Reader feature. It lets you open any text from any app in a separate window where you can tweak the font, typeface, and size for easier reading. And if you prefer listening, it can read the text out loud. There's a clever new feature called name recognition. Your Mac can now detect when someone nearby says your name and send you a quick notification, perfect if you're wearing headphones or working in a busy space. And that's it for macOS Tahoe. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing and I'll see you in the next one.